A lot of times when we set out to read the Bible, we decide to read a handful of verses a day. And I'll confess, I've often urged people to just pick up the Bible and read a chapter. When people do that, one of the hopes we often have is that people will more regularly and readily incorporate Bible reading into their daily routine. It's a well-meaning encouragement. Just dedicate 5 minutes a day. Just read a single chapter a day. Just read 10 verses a day. Let me be clear. There's nothing wrong with that. People reading the Bible is a good thing. Even a little time devoted to the reading of Scripture can make a big difference. But if we want to understand the Scriptures, it helps to remember that the books of the Bible weren't generally written to be read in small chunks. The Psalms are maybe an exception to this rule. Now, I realize the irony of talking about handling Scripture in larger sections in a video that aims to be around 5 minutes long and consistently handles smaller sections of Scripture. But where a devotional study of a single passage with discussion of context and application may be of use to an individual or even a group, the study of Scripture for a Christian should be about deeper digging than we can accomplish in this format. Think about it like this. Right here, I've got two of my favorite books, The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien and The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis. I could sit and easily read either of these books for hours, anticipating the movements of the plot, watching the characters develop, the worlds unfold themselves to a deeper appreciation with each reading. I allow these texts to live in the way that the author intended them to, as stories, not as pithy bits of wisdom to be quoted to support a viewpoint or drawn out of the larger whole. Imagine if instead of reading these books for the narratives they were, I read them the way many of us read the Bible. Today, I will read the third paragraph of page 951 of Return of the King. It was the day before midsummer when messengers came from Amon-Din to the city, and they said that there was a riding of fair folk out of the north, and they drew near now to the walls of the Pelennor, and the king said, "At last they have come. Let all the city be made ready." There may be some value in that, but it's going to be very limited value. Those words, outside of the context of the story, are dry and meaningless. A bunch of names and places, a date, a proclamation about making the city ready. So confused. What's going on here? And I've read this book many times. The Bible is the same way. Many people become frustrated by reading the Bible because they read it in a way we wouldn't read any other book. That doesn't mean you need to read Genesis through Revelation in the particular order of the arrangements of the books as they exist now, but the books within the Bible are best understood when read like a book. I love you. And today I'll leave you with this thought. In 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles, King Josiah discovers the book of the law. And he gathers all the people to him, and they read the law in its entirety. And when the hearing of the law being read was completed, a nation that had formerly fallen into pagan practices, like the worship of idols, reformed and returned to the worship God had called them to. If something as dry as the books of the law and Scripture have the power and ability to change an entire nation, how effective can the reading of the narratives of Scripture be in reforming us as individuals?